Hello and welcome to Dax Electronic Repair. Today we're going to be doing an iPhone SE 2020 version. Alright, here it is. This one, in fact, is my daughter's, and she destroyed it. So that's a lot of fun. You can see the screen's completely off the frame. It's great. Alright, first thing we want to do, pentalobe screws out of the bottom, like all the iPhones. That's where we will begin. Not only is the screen broken, but her home button is broken as well, so she did quite a number on this one. We'll look at that later on. Alright, screws are out, so we are going to go ahead and pry the screen off. Just get started with a razor blade, and then get your pick in there. This one didn't need it. It was in such bad shape. It just popped right off. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and get our screen taken off of there. And get our bottom ribbon connectors taken off. They're all under a bracket right here. I'll show you in a second once we get focused up. There we go. All right, we got 4 Phillips head screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take them out. Put them in order so you know where they go back in. They are different sizes. And then we take our bracket off. And we let our battery cable come. Get our battery cable off as well. Then we took the ribbon cables off for the screen. Now we're going to go up top and grab our 3 screws right there to get our front facing assembly stuff off the phone, which is also part of this screen, or attached to the screen rather. All right, 1 ribbon cable there. All right, that lets us separate the phone and the screen. And we'll just take a look at this one. So there are a few layers to these screens, and they should not be able to do this. The frame and the assembly, screen assembly, are completely separated. So yeah, this one she destroyed. All right, so we do want the front facing camera and speaker and things like that. So we're going to remove all of these Phillips head screws because we're going to be transferring it to the new screen. All right, so that is actually your ear speaker, that big thing I just took out. And then we've got the ribbon cables. You want to get a little bit of heat on these. Loosen the adhesive so it comes out. You don't want to pull on these ribbon cables without getting heat on them because they are fragile. They will break. Then you'll have to replace the camera and everything else. The other part we're going to be grabbing off of this is one with a home button, physical home button, so we need to grab that off of there as well. Believe it or not, there was a time when physical home buttons were a thing. Now there are 4 screws here. They're all tri-tip. So go ahead and grab your tri-tip and take them out. So this home button, she said, was not working, and here in a second you will see why. So this home button is supposed to be hooked up with a ribbon cable, which I'm about to take off right here, and actually runs through and connects with the ribbon cables that go for the screen. Sometimes a broken screen will cause these to not work. So you want to get this heated up too, because these are paired to the phone. So basically, if your ribbon cable or home button is broken, the only way you can get it repaired is through Apple. Now that part I just pulled out is supposed to be connected to the home button itself, which I'm about to show you. Yes, so that is supposed to be connected to that. It is not. So what that means is she is going to have to use assistive touch home button on this phone from now on, because you cannot fix that. Even if you get a new home button, it will not sync with the phone because it is paired by Apple. Now, if you go to Apple, they can pair it for you, or you can buy an aftermarket machine to do so, but they are expensive. So now we're just going to go ahead and test our new screen. We are going to be using that same home button. It's just going to be a hole filler at this point. It will have no functionality at all. Alright, hook up our new screen just to make sure it works properly. Nice thing about the SE second edition, which was what this is, from 2020, also the one from 2022, all use the same screens, which were actually iPhone 8 screens. So an iPhone 8, an SE 2020, and an SE 2022 are all the same screen. So that is nice, because when your kid breaks it. Alright, so here's us putting that home button in there. When your kid breaks it, it's cheaper. So usually we would go in and we would connect this to that with a ribbon cable. Our ribbon cable is gone. There's no reason to do that. Or it's broken, rather. So it doesn't need to be in there. But we are going to put our retainer on there to keep the home button in place. Otherwise it will fall out. Again, these are tri-tips. These are the only tri-tip screws in this phone. Alright, then we move to the top, because we are going to be reusing the ribbon assemblies and the front speaker, front camera, all that stuff on that, proximity sensor, all that stuff. So you got to be kind of careful with these. There's kind of a trick to doing it. They're layered in there. So first you're going to want to put everything but the camera down into it. It's got, each little part has its own little hole it goes in. So you put it down, and where you see those pads, those gold pads, on either side of that there's little bracket that you push, that it sits in, and that makes it locates it so everything else locates properly. Then those pads are actually, they connect with the speaker itself. So you put that on top, and they go right over where those pins are. And then you put the camera on, and then with everything staying in place, you put the bracket on top. Now it takes a little bit of skill or practice to do this all properly. The screw holes, the bracket needs to be completely down to the frame itself. You don't want any gap, because if there's a gap, that means something's not located properly. And there's a bunch of sensors. So once you do get a couple screws in, you can remove your finger from pushing down on it to keep it located, and then you put the rest of the Phillips in there. 6 of those. I always test the camera on these once it is together, because you'll know if you did it right, if the camera is all blurry or in the wrong place. But it's usually the screws won't go in if you have them in the wrong place. Alright, old adhesive off. Scrape it off. Don't be lazy and put a new gasket on top, new adhesive on top. You'll have a gap. New adhesive on. You're always fidgety. Take your time. Watch where you're touching. There are little tabs and things you can accidentally snap off if you're not careful. Alright, with these older ones, you want to put the top assembly on first, so you can bend the cable in a specific way so you can get it down. And then you put the bottom on. So we got everything hooked up except for the battery. You can see the battery's still open. The battery's disconnected still. And while we do that, we're going to go ahead and put our top bracket assembly. Remember, we have those 3 screws. We're going to put them back in. All right. Speed that up a little bit. You know how to put screws in, so we don't need to watch it in real time. All right, finally we're going to put the battery connector back on, and after the 15th try we will successfully do that. And we're going to put our 4 screws back in. And we will have all of our screws in except for our bottom ones. Alright, finally, I'm going to angle it in from the top. There are little brackets that hook in, and then you slowly work your way down the side, snapping it in. You do have to use a little bit of pressure, but if it does not go, do not force it, because you will break the screen. Once the gaps are all the same around the whole phone, you will know it is time to put your final pentalobe screws in the bottom. And you will be done. The nice thing about these SEs is they're significantly cheaper, and this one actually has the screen of an 8, like I said, but it has the internals of a 10, so it's quite a bit faster, but in a smaller package, and with a cheaper screen to replace for when your daughter breaks it. There you go, you did it. Thanks for checking out my video. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment, and see you next time. Love you.